All right, peace, peace. I'll be back in just a minute. Uh, I'm gonna play a song by Yashua Ashe, and we'll be right back.
Man in the full knowledge of himself is a superb and supreme creature of creation. When man becomes possessor of the knowledge of himself, he becomes master of his environment, the captain of his own ship, the director of his own destiny, the accomplisher of his own ends. Man should understand himself because man is full of knowledge, and this knowledge is a gift of nature. When Mother Nature created man, she deprived him of nothing. He was given the faculty of understanding all things around him. This faculty for understanding has not been taken away from him. None of his senses have been taken away from him. So there is no excuse for the black man.
I'm ripping my team, red, black, and green. Queens and kings, salute, now scream, I should. I should. I'm ripping my team, red, black, and green. Queens and kings, salute, now scream, I should. I should. I should, I should, I should, I should. I should. I should. I should, I should, I should, I should. I should. I should. It's time out for talking. It's time to beat the street. Salute the ancestors. I'm standing at your feet. And though I'm not perfect, I'm the truth still. Let me give you the red and the blue pill. I'm a born soldier. Studied to find closure. Before I resurrect, I had the sand cover. Similar to caterpillars. Live to butterfly. Goals after goals. I'm reaching for the sky. Raised in the death culture. I survived prison. You ain't scared to die, but you afraid of living. Oblivion vision won't let you see me head over cancer. The elevation of the black woman is the answer. I know you fed up, but keep your head up. Power in the numbers, multiply the bread truck. It's all about the application of the information. And is it beneficial to the next generation? I'm ripping my team, red, black, and green. Queens and kings, salute, now scream, I should. I should. I should, I should, I should, I should. I should. I should. I should, I should, I should, I should. I should. I should. It ain't about the fame, gotta plant the seed. It ain't about the game, gotta do the deed. I'm yelling race first, organize, strategize. All my people pump your fists, that's the battle cry. I ain't teaching no hate, I'm just loving my race. This false propaganda that they shove in our face, it's making you feel. But tell me why you scared. Need to stop being so emotional to use your head. Check my resume, check my date of birth. I'm an Aquarius, I was born to do the work. Marcus Garvey said, rise up, you mighty nation. We the only ones to get us out this situation. Ain't no feelings in business, stop trying to be equal. Create a hustle and spend that money with your people. Ain't no feelings in business, stop trying to be equal. Create a hustle and spend that money with your people. I'm ripping my team, red, black, and green. Queens and kings, salute, now scream, I should. I should. I should, I should, I should, I should. I should. I should.
All right, right. Peace, 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 and Black African Power. Welcome back to Kofi Piesie TV with Kofi Piesie. Y'all please like and share the show. I don't know where the people at. But please like and share the show. Please like and share the show. First, I want to say ETM Hotel, Dual Aku, Dual Nature, Fatmu Alafie, Fatmu Riri, Fatmu Iwa Pele, Majuba Iba E Gungun, Majuba Iba E Gungun, Majuba Iba E Lakba, Majuba Iba E Lakba. I always want to give honor and praises to the ancestors, because without the ancestors, we wouldn't be here. We are our ancestors. I also want to extend honor and praises to the true and living elders, according to an African perspective and from an African worldview. Again, over here, just because you are older than me does not make you my elder. I'm gonna have to make that a phrase and make that a shirt. I'm gonna have to put that Make that a brand. Make that a brand. But yeah, that's just saying that, from we look at everything from an African perspective and from an African worldview. So if you doesn't meet those standards, you don't meet that criteria, then you are not an elder. You are older to me, not an elder. So a lot of people in this community are not my elders. They are elders because they do not meet that standard. But yeah, let's get into it. Before I get started, I always have to promote before we even get started into the video, man. Let me go to here. Y'all, again, please like and share the show. Please like and share the show. Let me click off of here real quick and go over here. Again, today's show is called Why We Turn Our Backs on Our Tradition. And originally the chapter in my book, chapter 10, which is the last chapter, is called Why We Turn Against Our Tradition. So today we're going to be talking about why we hear some of the same rhetoric that we hear from the 50s, in the 60s, but we're going to start with chapter 10, and then throughout the weeks, I'll work my way back to the first. But first, I think this was probably the appropriate way to start with chapter 10, just to lay the foundation of why a lot of us have turned our backs against our traditions, why a lot of us say derogatory things about our tradition, why a lot of us ball our face up when we talk about when Africa is mentioned in a sentence by someone else, our face get balled up, derogatory terms are used when we're describing some people or their traditions, their culture, and etc. How did we get in the mindset that we were? And matter of fact, before we do that, I want to play this little video right here. Then we'll get into all of the things, and then we'll go straight into the book. Let me see if did it. Okay, I'm gonna play this, y'all. Let me know if y'all can hear this. Let me know if y'all can hear this. Hear the volume. All right, so do you see and do you understand? Let me take this off of here real quick. So that was just a little video I put together real quick, just giving y'all some visuals of what I'll basically be talking about. And do you see and do you understand why we say some of the things that we say, why we do some of the things that we do? But before we get started again, we'll be talking from my book, Beautiful Lessons About Beautiful Lessons About Kimoyo. We'll be dealing with chapter 10 today, and I'm gonna start working my way back. A few people have asked me why I hadn't been doing anything breaking down the book. So I'm gonna take heed at it, but I'm gonna start with chapter 10. Chapter 10 is entitled Why We Turn Against Our Tradition. So this book is available on Same Tree Different Branch Publishing. That's our publishing company. So go get that. If you don't have Spirit Masters, a historical survey in the minds of African warrior scholars 4, also go get that. That is available now on our Same Tree Different Branch Publishing Company. We also have a institution now called Spirit Masters Institution. It is directed toward our babies between the ages of, I think, 6 to 13, and then our teenagers from the age of 13 to 10. So we have two separate entities within Spirit Masters Institution. Coloring books, which is already, we'll talk about that in a minute. But Also, what SARS COVID taught you, we are still in the pandemic. A lot of people have forgotten that, we are still in a pandemic. So a lot of us is not wearing our masks. A lot of us is still not practicing social distance. A lot of us is just out in everybody's face. A lot of us is coughing in other people's faces. I'm definitely that got frustrated. I hate to even go out now. So COVID has rapid back up. So if you're not understanding what the coronavirus is, what is COVID 19, etc., this is the book for you. It is also available on our Same Tree Different Branch publishing company, the Spear Masters Institution coloring book. Again, this Spear Masters is the book, Spear Master Historical Survey of the Minds of African Warrior Scholars, but we created from that title, which was inspired by the Dinka people and the Sudan, the South Sudan to be exact. So we created the Spear Masters Institution, which we have coloring books out now directed between 6 to 13. This is for the kids. It's an educational coloring book. As they color, they learn. But we also have something else that'll be available on the 22nd for the 13th to 14th, which I'll demonstrate that in a minute. Also, the religious belief revisited, the Tep Hesed edition. If you don't have this publication, we're still waiting on the author's copy to come. Appreciate those who pre-ordered. I gave everybody a call why the books hadn't been shipped out, but they'll be available to be shipped out pretty soon. It'll be our pre-order, and it'll be originally released date will be coming, followed behind a show for it. But you can go pre-order the books right now. Also, Spear Masters. This is the institution. This is the part 2 between the Spear Master Institution. This is the comprehension book. This is between age of 13 to 21. It'll be available January the 21st. You can be able to get you a signed copy January the 22nd at the event in the Black Dot bookstore, the Black Dot Cultural Bookstore in Lithonia, Georgia, where we will be on the 22nd. So if you want a signed copy, you can get a signed copy. I'm probably going to try to maneuver something in there where it can actually be a coming out party, because we try to do coming out parties for these book releases. So that may be something that we may be able to incorporate in there. Also, again, as I'm talking about, should the community trust vaccine science at the and are they good for Black people? So this is the event that I'm talking about that we'll be at in Lithonia, Georgia, at the Black Dot Cultural Center. So, and it is a free event for the public to come out 7:30 to 10:30. We will have presenters from the Amara Squad, presenters from the Mossi Warrior Clan, presenters from the Pseudo Killers. I think they'll be presenting and presenters from Kofi Piesie research team. So I'll be there. Me and Shawn will be there on behalf of Mossi Warrior Clan and Kofi Piesie research team. I will be presenting a small presentation called Misinformation. I don't know, misinformation will hurt you, will kill you, somewhere in that thing. But also appreciate those who have supported the new Independent African Academy. We're going to continue to push this new movement of new Independent African Academy, this scholastic community, this community, a safe place where you don't have to worry about all the foolishness, the antics, people talking about your family, people talking about yourself, or people trying to one up you. Also, go get your new Independent African Academy t-shirts. Tootie, I'm on live. I'm live, Tootie. Also get your hoodies, your new Independent African Academy hoodies. They are also available. We have an apparel company, so they are also available on Family Connect Apparel, or go to Google and type in Mboka. Time you type in MBOK, the rest of it will come off / Family Connect Apparel. Click on it and go and order you some of our apparel. We have plenty of things, but if you support the new Independent African Academy movement, go get you a hoodie. We got the matching pants. Go get you a shirt, a long sleeve, and etc. Now that we got that out of the way, we can definitely get into it. Something real quick too that I know people, we're going to get into it. But let me go if I still have it pulled. If we don't have it pulled up, I'm not going to worry about it. But I think I got it pulled up right here. So again, we have to read this new Independent African Academy. These are our codes of conducts and our mandates. I know This is something that I'm just trying to beat in the people head that's over here, even the people that don't know about the new Independent African Academy. But you know, these are some of the things that we are trying to do, and some of the things we are expecting for the people to do while they're in the chat, while they view our show. So the new Independent African Academy community mandates: number one, never talk down on another. I'll do this over here. I do this every time. Never talk down on another new NIA member in public. Number two, no pseudos. Number three, research methodology must be followed. Number four, teach those who are willing to learn. Number five, support other members. Number six, disagreements handled in private. Number seven, no one is above correction. Number eight, we must stand for Black Africa, descendants in the diaspora. Number nine, zero tolerance for dishonesty. Number 10, Iwariwi, for people that may not know what Iwariwi is. That is good character. Number 11 is no selfless action. Number 12 is no scamming. Number 13 is no paraphernalia. Number 14 is no disrespecting Black women. Number 15 is race first. Number 16 is supporting Black businesses. Number 17 is integrity. Number 18 must possess the will to learn. Number 19, each one teach one. On my phrase, as I learn, we all learn. These are our goals. Some of these goals, like I said, we have achieved on a smaller level. We're trying to achieve it on a massive level, that is to produce, number one, producing more authors. Number two is producing exceptional men and women. Number three, institutions for learning. Number four, entrepreneurs. Number five, scientific literacy. Number six, scholarships for the youth. Number seven, long-lasting marriages. Number eight, creating rites of passages. Number nine, unification. And number 10, multiple support groups. So there is our codes of conducts and our goals for the new Independent African Academy. And like I say, every time I go live, I'm definitely going to read those and keep reiterating those things to, it started to become second nature for me, but not only second nature for me, but second nature for people who also participate and support the new Independent African Academy. And for those who just come on the platform, you know what I'm saying, it's in the chat. You know, we have goals, we have standards, and we have codes of conduct that we are trying to meet, trying to set that example for people out there. But I see we got Brother Panther who's popped in. Peace, Brother Panther, Jama.
Jama Mboka, Mandala, Baby Foodie. I just got one question, brother.
What's happening?
What is paraphernalia?
What it's supposed to be called, bro? You know, I'm country. They get on me. I be hating to even say it. What is supposed to be? What?
Pedophilia.
All right. Pedophilia. I promise y'all, 2022, I'm gonna do better with trying to pronunciate different things. I swear, I get tired. I'm always getting picked on about this thick country dialogue that I have. But it's all good. It's all good, man. It's all good.
So what do you say?
But I'm gonna breeze. I'm gonna try to breeze through this. I'm gonna put the put it up so everybody can see, because I know our people are visual, visual people. We be wanting to see. So I'm not just gonna read from the book. I'm gonna pull the book up and we're gonna read. We'll break some stuff down and we'll discuss some stuff afterwards. But like I said, I'm gonna try to come at least every week, try to and do a different chapter. But I think starting back with chapter 10 and then working my way back up to the first, second, third chapter will probably be best. So that's why I'm starting with chapter 10 first, with why we turn against our traditions. And I think it's a excellent segue to start off the book with, to understand why we say some of the things that we say about Africa. Like I said, I can say something about Africa and somebody will ball their face up. I can say something about Africa and somebody have this stained taste in their mouth, or they may say derogatory things. And a lot of these derogatory things, where do a lot of these terms and et cetera actually come from? Why are we saying some of the things that we say about our own customs, our own culture, our own people. So we gonna dig into it, man. While I pull it up, Ben, you got something else to say while I share my screen?
This is my favorite chapter.
Okay. Yes, indeed, man. Yes, indeed, man. I'm telling you, I don't even lie. I have got a lot of feedback from the book, but when Ben told me, man, he read the book and blase, man, I done had the swole head. I done had the swole head. So, you know, because it feels good, man, when you got, you know, your brother that you look up to, man, that you admire and aspire to be like, man, tell you things. And we should do that with each other, man. We should always try to uplift each other. When it's good, it's just good. Let them know it's good, you know, but a lot of us, our ego come into place and we don't want to, you know, tell people, man, good job. You know what I'm saying, man? I like what you're doing, man, but we need to do that more. We need to encourage people more. So I'm gonna share my screen real quick. There you go. Share my screen. And damn. All right. Let me know when it's pulled up. I'm gonna try to go to the chapter while I'm in here.
Yep, we see it.
All right. Let me go. I should have been already ready, man, but man, my wife and sister-in-law called me and kind of got sidetracked and kind of got behind. Wanted to start right on time. So give me just a second. I'm going to it. Let's see what it is. It's 8. Okay. All right. Here we are. So this is chapter 10, why we turn against our traditions. So let me go back here too, because I want to be able to see it on this other laptop as well. Pull this over here. All right. So is that big enough for y'all? All right. We're going to go ahead and get started, man. So why we turned against our tradition. This is chapter 10. Like I said, we're going to talk about it. Ben, if you got anything, you can just stop me while I'm reading. While I got anything, I'm gonna stop while I'm reading too, and we kind of break some of this stuff down. But it says, before foreigners, Arabs, enslavers, European enslavers, colonizers, missionaries, African people have had their own way of life. Traditions are what they are called present-day religions. Many years pre any or those names above, the existence of those religions is evident in ancient African art, particularly in rock engraving, painting, sculpture, buildings, and traditions of African folklore. Both artistics and oral traditions were created to reflect the religious fabric of the people who made them. Now, I have right here the attack, the confusion, prejudice, and misunderstanding and lies, right? So foreign theorists and investigators, before we had foreign investigators to give the world an idea of what religious beliefs of the African look like, there were theorists who have never been in Africa, but who regarded it as the dark continent where people who had no ideal of God and were the devil and all abyss, grotesque and forbidden, features, arms and teeth and horns, complete hell sway. I'm gonna stop real quick right there where it says, where it's talking about, where it says, before the foreign investigators give the world the idea of what religious belief of Africans look like, there were theorists who had never been in Africa but regarded it as a dark place. So if you're following me, if some of you understand that if you look back at a time, I'm gonna go to maybe the 50s. Let's go to the early 1950s. Let's go to the early 1950s. You had a tug and pull, which we're not going to talk about in this chapter, but we're going to talk about in another chapter where we with these terms, African traditional religion and African spirituality, why we pushing the word Kimoyo, why it describes us more. But if you look around that particular time, there was a fight in between African way of life, Kimoyo being recognized, right? So these people, a lot of newspaper outlets, journal outlets, and etc., was writing negative things about Africa and had never ever been on the continent. thought that these people were primitive. These people were illiterate. They had no sense of how things came into creation. They had no sense of building such things. So during this period of time, you had people that was writing negative things about Africa and had never set sail to Africa yet, and deeming these people all these things that they were saying, right? These theories and fantastic tales to tell about Africa. And one such tale was recorded in the Berlin Journal, which Leo Frobenius read before he ever visited Africa to see things for himself. Among other things, it said, before introducing genuine faith and higher standards of culture by the Arabs, the natives have neither a political organization nor, strictly speaking, any religion. Therefore, an example, the pre-Mohammedanism condition of the Negro race to confine ourselves to the description of the crude fetishism, their brutal and cannibal customs, their vulgar and repulsive idols, and squattle homes. So there you go. I'm trying to give you some of these examples as well. You know, these people's writing these journals and writing all these negative things about Africa and never been on there. And he said that they had no political organizations. We know that's not true. So even if you follow and you look, because I don't know, I think I put it in one of the volumes that we had out. But I also wrote an article about it before I put it in the volume. And I talk about those the secret society. So we deal with different societies, and we talk about the purpose of a lot of those societies as well within those different ethnic groups, right? But so we know that what he's saying is incorrect and similar to these in the dialogues that took place between Edwin Smith, who had gone out as a missionary to Africa, and Emil Longwood, an intimate biography. When Longwood got to know that Edwin Smith was in Africa as a missionary, he was surprised, and in his surprise, he asked, "How can the untutored African comprehend God?" Deity is a philosophy concept in which savages are incapable of framing. You see how they keep every time they talk, and even, you know, with some of these terms, these derogatory terms, and you see how the way that they are talking about the people in Africa, right? You see how we as a people today, and we're gonna continue, you will see that some of the same stuff, we are regurgitating some of the same stuff in the early 50s and the early 60s of these investigators, these prejudiced journalists who was writing about Africa, who never set sail in Africa, but had a disdain for these people on this continent, will write all these derogatory and false statements about Africa and the people who reside in Africa, right? These two quotations show the ignorance, the prejudice, and the pride of these theorists. They did not know, and they never confessed their ignorance about Africa and the Africans. Hence, Professor Adewu strongly described the period as the period of ignorance and false certainty. So people who already got my book should already know who Adewu is. And I'll talk a little bit more about him. I'll just mention he was one of the ones who actually, with him and John Obiti, was the one who popularized the phrase African tradition religion. He popularized this phrase, and they popularized this phrase and pushed forward until they was able to get it into the institutions. So now when you study different things and colleges now, Africana studies and etc., you will see this term pop up, African tradition religion. It was to try to get the Western world to recognize that Africa had a religions or had some religions. They had a concept of it, right? So they pushed to popularize a word that we have no agency of. And this was a white European who was from London. He was a missionary. He was an author of some sort, and he the one coined the phrase African traditional religion. He went to two different African countries, and he was a missionary there. So he tried to study and get an understanding of what was going on, and he wanted the Western world to recognize Africa in a better way and stop using derogatory terms and saying they have no sense of this, they have no sense of that, they don't have this, they are devils, etc. So he, with the help of John Mbiti and Ottawa, they helped to push African tradition religion, this phrase, and popularize it and get it pushed into these Western institutions to be recognized that Africa had a religion of some sort. But we'll talk about that. I'm not going to go too far than that because that's in another chapter. So I talk about that in the chapter. So I break down who John Mbiti is. I break down who Ottawa is, where they studied it, and etc. Their purpose of trying to clear up some misconfusion about Africa traditions and etc. Why they popularized it at this particular time, and who was Godfrey, who was this missionary who went to these two different countries, a missionary, and popularized this phrase. But that's in a whole nother chapter. Hence, Professor Ottawa strongly described this period as a period of ignorance and false certainty in the study of African traditional religion. Western scholars attempted to write off Africa as a spiritual desert. There were undoubtedly a few who had uneasily felt that the story of spiritually vacuums of a whole continent of people that could not be entirely true. While some scholars admitted that the whole of Africa could not be spiritually vacuum, they raised doubt as to whether the God that the Africans believed in was the real God or their own God. So now when the people, at first they took the position of Africa, they clearly couldn't understand what a God was. They didn't have a God. They was incapable of understanding these things, even though the functions, which is also in another chapter. It's also in another chapter that I deal with where I talk about and name a lot of the deities, but I give you the functions. So the functions and the operation of these African deities are totally different than the Western perspective and the Western worldview. But that's in a whole nother chapter. And we using the word God right now because we know that's what, what I'm saying? We just using the terms that y'all are familiar with. But where were I? But like I said, again, at first they attempted that. They didn't know. Now they attempted that they know, but they have a clue of what God, but it's not a real God. It's not. So on their own God, they started coining expressions like a high God or a supreme God. So, and we hear these terms now for those who go into the church. You start to see the Western world, you start to see the Western scholastic world, you start to see them start to use the terms God, high God, or the supreme God. And I'm speaking because this is how when you go to church, some of our own people are using this same thing. They're still in the same mind frame that their God is superior than any other God on the planet. No one God is above their God. Their God is the high God. My God is the supreme God. We know we hear this in the churches. We hear this in the mosque. We hear this in the synagogue. So I'm telling you exactly where these terms are actually coming from. And we are now using those same terms amongst each other. So, and I can have a conversation with my dad. I just give an example. I can have a conversation with my dad. And even though the more conversations we have, the more he started to have an understanding because he didn't have an understanding. But he would use the terms too. My God is a supreme. My God is the almighty God. My God is the high God. My God is the supreme God. Not knowing where these terms come from and why they begin to use these terms to say that their God is superior over any other God on the planet. So instead of saying God, they put high God, they put supreme God. in the front of it. So, all right. So whole Africa could not be a spiritual vacuum. They raised doubt as to whether God, the African, believed in what was a real God or their own God. They started coming up with expressions like a high God or a supreme God. A.C. Boke, for example, seemed to be expressing the Western mind when he said such as high God hardly differs from the supreme being of the 18th century deist, and it's absurd to equate him to the deities of the Lord prayers. Heifer, Cambridge. This is from page 9. This is in the year 1933, page 106. Here we see Botik is propounding a theory of many supreme beings or others to be placed, the African God at the lower level than the deity than he met in Jesus Christ. This is the intellectual attitude completely with a racial pride and prejudice. And again, we see the same thing go on when we speak to some of our own Christian brothers, our own Muslim brothers. And well, I'm just speaking from myself. I can't speak for nobody else. I don't, even I know a few Hebrew Israelites. So even speaking to Hebrew Israelites, but I encounter more of Christians more than I do anything else. But I know.
Can I make one point really quickly, Brother Kofi?
Go ahead.
Because this part of the book is very important for understanding what went on during ancient Africa and what continues to go on today. You made an excellent point at this part in the book, and I want people to really understand the point that you made, how they wanted to separate themselves and create a hierarchy of gods, therefore separating them from what we believe, because what we believed was pagan and savage and fetish and barbaric and backwards and all of the derogatory phrases that they created. What they're doing now at this point in your book and in this point in time is creating the social Darwinism model for which they will use to later justify conquering and colonizing and enslaving us. So for people that don't know what social Darwinism is, it's the theory that individuals, groups, peoples are subject to the same Darwin laws of natural selection in plants and in animals. So basically it's survival of the fittest, but with civilizations and people. So because I have rose to a certain plateau in my development and I have created technology that can conquer, that I should do it and I should come and conquer you.
Right.
Because I can do it, right? So that becomes a thing because we see it later, right? We see it with the doctrine of discovery. 1823, the doctrine of discovery says it's a spiritual, political, and legal justification for colonization and seizure of land not inhabited by Christians. So if you're Christian, if you're not a Christian nation, I can come enslave you. People always like to point the fact out that Ethiopia was not enslaved in the transatlantic slave trade. Well, why the hell you think that is? Was it because they were afraid of Ethiopia? No, they weren't afraid of Ethiopia because later the Italians came to attack them in the Battle of Ottawa. So it wasn't because of that. Mm-hmm. It was because of the doctrine of discovery and policies like that they left Ethiopia alone, because Ethiopians practice Coptic Christianity. You got to go to the Dum Diversas.
Yep.
1452, Pope Nicholas V authorized the enslavement and perpetual servitude of what he called pagans.
Mm-hmm.
Africans are pagans to these people.
Yep.
Africans are they can't understand. Like I don't know if anybody saw the Blak Panther cartoon that used to come on BET, but it was a great cartoon because there was a time in the cartoon where he's talking to this Catholic priest, and he said all of their technological advances, all of their civilization, all of their prosperity, but they still pray to that panther god. That's what annoyed him. That's what made him angry. that they would not pray to the supreme God, to the true living God, to the Almighty, all this, whatever they say. So that is what pissed the Europeans off more than anything. We would not acknowledge their God as the God for us.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, they got angry. So this part in your book really lays the foundation for social Darwinism. Then we got the dumb verses into the doctrine of discovery, and they're all based on the same thing.
Yep.
I can conquer you because I can, and I am justifying it because you are not Christian.
Mm-hmm. That's a fact. That is a fact, Jack. Yep. But yeah, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that, man. And anytime, man, you want to just chime in, Ben, just chime in, man. Just chime in. So where were we? So here, several investigators were interested in finding out the truth about religion in Africa. Even here, we should remark that not all of them took the trouble to make thorough investigations. Some of them did their research part-time. The colonial civil servants, the missionaries, the explorers, etc. Others were anthropologists and sociologists who examined religions just by the way. And yet others were theologians and trained researchers. Several of them did their investigation as best as possible among the people whose languages most of them did not understand. Even when interpreters were used, one could not be sure that the interpretation would be accurate. The missionaries were particularly subjective, which they were, and they could not see anything good in African traditional religion. The impression that they had of it was that it was not worth knowing and expected that the religion would soon perish, but they were proven wrong. Misleading terms. ATR, African traditional religion, and I'm using these terms just because I know y'all understand these terms, but y'all will understand too when you go back again, just reiterating when you go back to the front of my book, I explain why I don't like the word African traditional religion, where the word actually comes from, who popularized it, how it ended up in academia, this term, right? But I'm using it right now, just to give y'all an understanding, because I'm still trying to get people, and me being Sars and etc., trying to get the word Kimoyo, get y'all familiar with the word Kimoyo and understand Kimoyo describes it better. But religion describes in many racial and misleading, and we have agency over this word by exact, Kimoyo. African traditional religion, we don't have any agency over the word because we did not create that word, that phrase. But anyhow, described the many racial and misleading terms by missionaries, anthropologists, historians, sociologists, archaeologists to belittle African traditional religion or Kimoyo. Again, such terms include animism, savagery, paganism, magic, fetish, idolatry, juju, primitive, heathenism, polytheism, ancestral worship, and a lot of us today, our own people, when describing Africa, when describing the people in Africa, when describing the culture in Africa, the customs in Africa, some of us describe them in that same way. It's sad, but these are terms and phrases that we did not come up with, right? So
let me make this point because I should have said this. Fitz is exactly right. They attached Darwin's name to a lot of things, and this was why it was after he was gone that the phrase social Darwinism started to be popularized. So I don't want to make it seem like we were trying to discredit Charles Darwin and his natural selection evolutionary model. This is a social model that was created after he was gone, and like this blurb says, it was to perpetuate conquering.
Right.
You know, he had nothing to do with this. A lot of things people associate Darwin with, he had nothing to do with.
They'll include him with it, though. They'll include him with it.
I saw something. It's a new term that has something to do with space, but they attached Darwin to it as well, man. They will not, but that's a form of ancestral veneration. They will not let Darwin die. They will attach him, even if he didn't believe in it. They will attach him to ideas that he could not possibly have even been around for. So I wanted to make that point. Fitz, you're absolutely 100% correct. He had nothing to do with social Darwinism. That term came after he was gone.
All right. Where were we? Okay, yeah. It should be noted that these terms are still widely used by both Africans, like I said, and non-African writers and researchers. And with a lot of material that me and Ben, Shawn, and the rest of us that studies Africa extensively, you do have some African writers who use some of these same terms, especially when you look at a lot of the older books that are out. A lot of these terms you would definitely see. Animism is one you definitely gonna see everywhere. But some African writers have been westernized by Europeans, hence they are also use their racial and misleading terms, whether knowingly or unknowingly, in describing African traditional religion, which is a fact. We know when the missionaries went into Africa, what they do when they went into Africa. They set up their own institutions, their own schools, and they would educate those in whatever particular area that they was in. They would teach them their language. So this is where you get certain people when you go to certain places, they speak English. When you go to certain places, they speak French. When you go to certain places, they speak Portuguese. And these languages are now the predominant languages, you know what I'm saying, that are speaking in these areas. So they teach them their language, and then they educate them, they re-educate, they give them their perspective, their worldview. They convince them that their way of life is not the way to go. Their life is so through the education, them educating them there, now they are in the mindset. When some of these same African writers start to write, you see some of the same things that they was taught within these missionaries institutions or these Christian institutions. The things that were taught to them started to be bleeded out on paper. We need to examine some of these words and bring others to their connotation. So let's start with primitive. This is the New World Webster Encyclopedia Dictionary defines primitive as beginning or origin. Originally, the first old-fashioned characteristics by a simplicity of ancient times. 2 is savagery. Is right on savagery. The dictionary meaning is about the forest or wilderness, wild, uncultured, untamed. And we see, which I still see, some of our own people when explaining things that are going on in Africa, the things that our ancestors did, and some of the things that are going on, you see them describe them as savagery. You know what I'm saying? They are savages. They are savages. You know what I'm saying? We do not subscribe ourselves like that. My people is not savages. You know, it says and one of them is totally disagree with. It says uncultured. We have plenty of culture. It says violent, brutal, uncivilized, untaught, rude, barbarous, inhuman, in words, savagery, in the opposition of civilization. Now, the nigga, I'll say, I don't use this word. That word nigga is not in my vocabulary. I know people use the word. I don't consider myself a nigga at all. I don't want nobody to call me a nigga, say my nigga. But you use the word how you want to use the word. Now, I can't say the nigga. Some of the niggas I know, but I don't fool with niggas. But some of the niggas I did know, they meet some of these things: uncivilized, untaught, rude, barbarous, inhuman. But that's a whole nother story when we talk about it. Just maybe my opinion when I say that the nigger was invented on the plantation, but that's my opinion. Just looking at the definition of savagery, it says untaught, rude, barbarous, and the most Europeans use these terms when describing African culture and tradition. As a look back in history, those terms definitely apply to European cultures and their ancestry, which is a fact. We can go back and comb through all majority of European culture, and their culture describes all of these different things. I was having a conversation today on the phone. Me and my uncle was on the phone, and we was talking today, and we was having a conversation. I was trying to, we was talking about African traditions, right? And as we was talking about African traditions, it was some stuff that he said I agree with, and it was some stuff that I disagree with. And I told him why I disagree with what he was saying about some of the things about African traditions in this day and time. So I was explaining, when we go back and you look at history, you know what I'm saying, when we're talking about their culture or their worldview, their perspective of their religion, you know what I'm saying, Africans have never used their way of life, you know what I'm saying, to enslave another group of people, because they did not all believe or think the same, and a lot of people, like being said, they utilize, if you wasn't a Christian, it was legal for them to come and kidnap you and enslave you because you didn't believe in you wasn't a believer in Christianity. You know what I'm saying? You didn't believe in their God, and etc.
And consequently, Kofi, that attitude that we're talking about, that starts to rub off on Africans the more they start to convert to Abrahamic faiths.
Mm-hmm.
We see it first coming from the Muslim community. Yep. And then, it goes further and further into Africa. The more that Abrahamic tradition comes in, the more of the jealous God, infidel from the Muslim side, and other things that starts to be, a norm amongst African people. The further we get into the Abrahamic tradition or religions, and that's no coincidence. That's no coincidence at all.
Definitely see it. Fetish. It said fetishism.
Fetish. Fetishism.
Yeah, fetishism. Yeah. But it is early in this paper we came across Forbes, who claimed to have read the Berlin Journal, which I talked about the Berlin Journal. Some of these investigators, for people that just came in, we was talking about some of these foreign investigators and theorists who in their early writings was writing negative about Africa and never ever set sail into Africa. But they was writing all of this negative things about Africa and using these derogatory verbiage that we are still using today, that these investigators. So in this chapter, I'm trying to show you why we are still using and thinking the same, and where some of these terms and these phrases are come from, and how we was conditioned into believing that, our people are paganism, like you said, idol, worshiping false idols, or our gods were lower gods, and etc. But let's go on. Early, what it says. So who claimed have read the Berlin Journal, where it was stated that African was a place dominated by cruel fetishisms. What the fetish means, linguistic claims that the word is a Portuguese origin. The early Portuguese who came to Africa saw that African used to wear charms and amulets, giving the name feticle to such things. This is the same word as the French frietch. The dictionary meaning of fetish is an object, animated or inanimated, natural or artificial, regarded by some uncivilized race with feelings of, you see that verbiage, feelings of awe and having a mysterious power residing in ours and being a representative or habitations of a deity. Hence, fetishism is the worship of or emotional attached to inanimated objects, but Retrail corrected these wrong notions in early investigators when he said fetishisms made from part of an emblem of God, but fetishisms and God are distinct in some regards by the Ashanti. The main power and the most important spiritual in a God comes directly or indirectly from Iyami. So they're talking about the deity um, from the Kumi tradition. The supreme God, in contrast, the power of spirit and fetish comes from a plant or a tree, and sometimes directly or indirectly from fairies, forests, monsters, witches, and from some sort unholy contact with death. A God is a God of many. The family, the clan, the nation, the fetish in general, personal to its owner. We see then that it would be entirely wrong to describe religion of Africans as fetishism. The main being is an emblem of this in the day-to-day life of African, but it is incorrect to describe it as all a fetishism. But going back to fetishism, being if I'm mistaken with they saying with these objects and etc., don't the Christians believe in the power of the cross? When certain things go on, they rub the cross or they cross their hands. And I don't. The Muslims, they believe in this Kaaba, this damn object that fell from space or wherever the hell it come from. I'm trying to understand. Like they writing about these things, but the very thing that they describe and they saying and using this term, they actually doing the same thing. I'm confused. I'm confused. I'm like, I know when I was a Christian, I know when I came into home or I prayed and I thought if I had my cross with me and hold my cross and I prayed and I said certain things that it would actually happen, or if I feel like I was in harm's way, I would hold my cross and I was pray about certain things because I believed in that cross had this certain type of power that it had where it will protect me, it will have protection over my life. So I was confused.
Even in movies and media, like when vampires come out, what's one of the first things they have in their hand?
Damn cross.
and holy water and
holy water.
All the things from their religion that are supposed to keep evil at bay. That's
right.
Not particularly a lot of people, a lot of different traditions, religious, spiritual, or other, believe in that. So the problem is not what you're describing. The problem is black folks is doing it, and they are doing it independent of the people that have power. That's the problem. We don't want y'all with y'all own shit, because if y'all have y'all own shit, you won't use our shit, and we can't maintain the power. That is the problem, and that goes back to the social Darwinism and the dumb diverses and the doctrine of discovery, because I'm labeling you pagan, savage, less than, whatever. I can't admit that we have the same things, because that makes me pagan, savage, or whatever. So I have to make you look like it's something only that you do, and we do not approve of what you do.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of people never do the research from both sides to say, hey, ain't this the same thing? What you but it is what it is. I mean, that's why even within religious sects, you have so many split disagreements, so many different types of Christianity. You got the up the street, you got the Baptist down the road, you got the Pentecostal, you got the Episcopalian. All of these people believe in the fundamental tenets of Christianity, but they got problems with each other.
Oh, because the 7-day Adventist got problem with the Pentecostal. The Pentecostal got problem with the Presbyterian. The Presbyterian got problem with the Catholic. The Catholic got problem with the Baptist. The Baptist got a problem with what them damn folks say black folk, the Mormons. I mean, it's just so many different.
I don't know if you remember this from this movie. It was called Blue Chips. It's a classic movie.
Oh yeah.
But when Nick Nolte went to recruit one of the players, and he said, well, I wouldn't feel comfortable sending my boy with nobody that doesn't know the good Lord. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, I'm a Baptist. And the father stopped at him, and he looked, and he said,
was recruiting a big white boy.
Yeah, he said, First Baptist or Southern Baptist? And he stopped, and he was like, First Baptist. And he was like, well, thank the good Lord. Yeah. If he would have said Southern Baptist, you would have been looking for another player.
Right.
He wouldn't let him go with nobody, that was Southern Baptist and he First Baptist. So,
right.
It's so hypocritical when you look at it, from an African perspective, and you start to see that the problem is not the practice. The problem is that the wrong race has an institution away from the people in power. That's all it's about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now this in here is juju. Juju. The word juju and juju. Well, I go through this first. The word juju is French in origin. It means a little doll or toy. Its application to Africa deities has been participated by the English writers. For example, P.A. Talbot, in his Life of Southern Nigeria, devoted 3 chapters to juju among the Igbo people and discussed the various divinities among them. How can divinities, however minor, be described as toys? Africans are not so low in intelligence as to be incapable of distinguishing between an emblem or a symbol or worship and a doll or a toy. Juju is therefore one misleading and derogatory term used by investigators out of either sheer prejudice or ignorance. And just like this word juju, right? This word is a derogatory term. You read some literature, you know what I'm saying, a lot of literature, you will see this word come out a lot, juju. Some people in particular, just like the word nigger, right? Say and like I said, I don't use this word. I don't refer to myself as one, so I don't refer to others as one, or I don't hang around those who fit the characteristics of what a nigger is. But we took the word nigger, which was a derogatory term, we always say, and we flipped the word and made an enduring word to us. So you hear us, my nigga. What up, nigga? What up, my nigga? Say what, nigga? So we use the word a lot. So we flipped the word. So even here, you will hear, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, but didn't brother Unc Banu and what's the hip hop artist Scott darn it, I can't think who did the song the intro song for us, man. The Mossi did the what's his name?
Tired.
Yeah. They flipped the word and they created something. They created like a institution or something out that word, didn't it?
It was a hashtag for a lot of years. Juju Life. My brother, mostly known as Sundiata, now known as Onasanya. He has a clothing line which I support called Juju Life, and in there's a lot of controversy around Juju Life, Juju as a word. Brother Modupe Oduwoye, he spread some other light on this word linguistically, saying that the French got juju from the word iju, the Yoruba word iju, which means jungle. So that the root of the word juju is basically describing forest, darkness. There's a Middle Egyptian word, du, wilderness. There's another word, aginju, in Yoruba, darkness, wilderness. It's basically describing a place of mysteries, black mysteries, forests, mysterious, stuff like that. All the places where African initiations take place. So we take that definition, and the French flipped it because maybe they heard it and they flipped it to toy. I do not know. But I don't have as big a problem with the word juju as I have with some of the other words. But you're right, because nobody knew that when they start flipping juju into juju life or anything like that. Nobody's read Mdupe Oduwoye's work and got that from that, with the exception of probably me, Sars, and some others. But yeah, we have a habit of flipping words. Sometimes it can be for positive, sometimes it can do more damage than harm, damage than good. So I have to say that the French were not being kind, or not being, they weren't paying homage when they said that our stuff was juju. It was meant to be derogatory.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
However they heard it, it was meant to be derogatory the way they used it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna have to cop that from. I'm gonna have to get that brother's work too, man. That you mentioned. If it ain't outpriced like a lot of this stuff that's outpriced, now I ain't finna pay no.
I'm gonna look it up while you talking.
Yeah, I ain't paying no $1,200 for no book by players.
Got it.
But yeah, and for
Hook
people
the whole Mossi up with a copy too. Why you spending money?
Yeah. And for those that got the book, you know what I'm saying, turn to page 161. You know what I'm saying? We on page 161 of my book, Beautiful Lessons About Kimoyo, man. Y'all please thumb the show up, man. Thumb the show. We got 32 people watching. We only got 23 likes. So man, please, if you enjoying it, if you enjoying the conversation with me and Ben is having, enjoying the show, man, thumb the video up, man. If you're not enjoying it, thumb the video down. Either way, you support either way.
We can't even see the thumbs down no more anyway. They done took that from us.
Yeah. So, but yeah, let's go to paganism, man. Paganism and heathenism. We choose to treat paganism and heathenism together because the meaning applies to them or similar, if not identical. The word pagan is from the Latin word paganus, meaning peasant, village, or country, district. It also means one who worships false gods, a heathen. And brothers and sisters, when I tell you, I have been called a heathen and a pagan. Man, I can't even stop counting, man. I cannot. Maybe the last 2 years I hadn't heard it as much, but I remember when I first became aware, and I began to start questioning a lot of stuff and buying certain literature and reading other stuff that was, I'll say, foreign to me at the particular time, because I knew nothing else but Christianity and really the only literature I read that was pertaining to other particular people and their culture was from the Bible, right? So soon as I began to start challenging those things and I no longer started going to church, and I was heavy. I'm a Mason. I'm still a Mason. I'm always gonna be a Mason. I hadn't been active, but I'm finna get back active. But I hadn't been active in the last maybe 3.5, almost 4 years. But I was active for 13 or 14 years straight. And out of those 13 or 14 years straight, I might have missed maybe 2 or 3 meetings out of those meetings. And I'm a 32nd degree Mason. So I wasn't only just a Blue Lodge. For brothers that may know, I was in those other houses as well. So I was in Royal Lodge. I was in, so I had Royal Lodge meetings outside the Blue Lodge, the local lodge level. I had, I was a member of Knights Templar, so I had meetings in Knights Templar. I was a noble. So I went to those meetings. I went to the shrine meetings. I was all the way up on the sister side. I was a patron on the sister side. So I had to be in that meeting with the sisters because I was a patron. I was all the way up on the sister side. So I was in the Herons of Jericho with the sisters. I was in the Lady Knights with the sisters. I was in the
crazy as hell. That's why.
I was crazy. No time. That might be why my first wife really did what she did to me, and we ended up getting divorced because I had no time. It was meetings, travel. But the point I'm making is that when I started to question a lot of those things, and people started to see I started to deter and ask questions and blase, and then started to present other information and presenting other evidence. People started to call me a pagan, started to call me heathen, and a lot of people at that time separated themselves to me. But later on, a lot of those people came back. Brother, you was right. A lot of those people came back, and I began to start because I was a lecturer as well, and I started doing lectures on certain things, trying to give people some understanding. But anyway, I've been called this numerous of times, pagan and heathen. I can't even count. But because of the meaning applied to the symbol, it is not identical. The word pagan is from the Latin word paganus, meaning peasant, village, country, district. It is also means worshiping false gods, a heathen. But when the meaning is stretched further, it means one who is neither a Christian, a Jew, nor a Muslim. And I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Jew.
I'm pagan.
Huh?
I'm proud heathen.
What'd you say, Ben?
I'm a proud pagan. I'm a proud heathen.
Me too. I'm proud heathen.
Call me what you will. Hell, some people think it was some churches we atheists.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Because we don't believe in the high God, the almighty God, the supreme God. That's my God. My God is the all-knowing God. Give it up for God one time. Give it up for the supreme God.
It's just so arrogant, like every Sunday, arrogant as hell.
My God is the almighty. Oh man, I've heard that too many times. But anyway, man. Yeah. On the other hand, heathen is a vast tract of land, and a heathen inhabits. A heathen is possessed the characteristics of a heathen, a heath dweller. A heath dweller, according to the New Webster Encyclopedia Dictionary, heathen is a pagan, one who worships idols and does not acknowledge the true God, a rude, barbarous, and irreligious person. These words are not correct in describing the indigenous religions of Africa because the people religion and they do believe in a supreme God. If the only religion have or adhere to the Christian, Judaism, and Islam, them or all other words, religions become either heathens or pagans and uncivilized. Presumptively, and even going back when we go back to these words, God or etc., right? The functions and the operations of what we call in gods, Africans did not, their functions and operation is totally different. So I talk about that in the book. So I talk about a lot of the deities on one of the chapters in the book. Matter of fact, let me see what chapter that is. I'll tell y'all what chapter that is so people got the book that want to go. It's Supreme Deities and Lesser Deities. So that's the name of the chapter. Supreme Deities and Lesser Deities. I think that's chapter 4. Let me make sure. That's chapter 4. Yep, that's chapter 4. So I talk about the functions and the way it operates and how they look, and etc. But going back into what I was saying, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam is then, in other words, religions become either heathens or pagans and uncivilized. Presumably, these terms are used in the attempt to disguise, distinguish between enlightenment and barbarian. What has this to do with religion? We think such terms are more sociology than religion. This is by Awula. this animism. And like I said, for those who read a lot of African literature and a lot of the stuff that we read, if you look at that, I don't know if a lot of, I do that a lot because it gives me an idea when I'm reading something, what mindset particular, these particular writers are in, or what time period they was in, so I may understand certain things. If I disagree with certain things, I understand why I disagree, because at certain time periods, okay, they may have not been privy to this information. These findings may have came up. They may have not discovered this. A tool wasn't developed to discover certain other things at this particular time. So I understand this. But reading a lot of those literatures, animism, this word comes up a lot, animism. The greater advocate of theory of animism was E. Taylor. And for people, this is a derogatory term when they're describing our traditions. It really is. E. Taylor, primitive culture. Many writers still describe African traditional religion as animistic, the meaning attributed to living souls of inanimated objects and natural phenomena. From our own study of African traditional religion, we find there are unmistakable elements of animism. For example, the Ikoro tree is not an ordinary tree. It is believed to be inhabited by a spirit. And, this is true. I don't know if I talked about this in my book or in any other of the books. It might have been in an article. That's what we do over here. We writers, we try to do what the ancestors have told us to do, and that is produce works. And I think it might have been in volume 4. But I talk about the tree. And I talk about it in this book, because I talk about libations in this book. It's another element of Kimoyo. So I got a whole chapter dealing with libations. And I talk about how certain ethnic groups believe that everything has a spirit, where it is animated or inanimated. So I talk about a particular ethnic group who got ready to chop the tree down to use the tree, but before they chopped the tree down, they had to get permission. They had to pray for the tree, and et cetera, and et cetera. So we do believe that everything has a spirit, where it's animated or inanimated. The tree is a living thing as well. The Oshun River in Western Nigeria is believed to be more than an ordained river because of the spirit. Even, and if you read the Spearmaster's book, we talk about the river spirit, which is a folklore. It is a mythological story that was told within the Dinka people about the spirit river impregnating a woman who had a son after something happened to her husband. But any traditional system in Africa that you look at, you will see that in animated and inanimated things, we believe, had a spirit. Dwelling in a mistake, the river productive in many respects, especially during barrenness, lightning, thunder, and manifestation of the thunder god. I should add that it would be a gross error to label African traditional religion as animism, since every religion has some form or belief of an existence of a spirit. For example, Christians believed in the existence of the Holy Spirit. Shintoism believe in the existence of Kama, which is a spirit. Jews believe in Yahweh inhabiting Mount Orb. Muslims venerated the sacred stone, the Kaaba in Mecca, when they go for pilgrimage. And among the Hindus and the Jains, it is believed that the spirit inhabited natural objects. Argument 1993. And so it says the African traditional religion is animistic and would mislead and racial. Number 7, idolatry. Idolatry is derived from the Greek words, I ain't finna try to put, or idon, which means the worship of images, figures, shapes, and usually copied real things. Thus, the regards to African traditional religion / Kimoyo it was used by mainly Europeans, Christians who speak of ATR's African traditional religion or Kimoyo as a worship of false gods. Also noted that idolatry is the worship of creatures instead of the creator, and creatures worship is made by people who are not creatures. And with that, I totally disagree with that, because if you look at African culture and traditions, again, they believe that everything had a spirit, where it's animated and inanimated. So if you look at certain things and a certain carving that they had, they believe that that spirit is inside of this carving or this image. This image is not who um who they would be particularly deifying at this time. If that statue or a piece of art or whatever was destroyed, does not mean that their deity was destroyed. It only means that that object that the spirit was in was only destroyed. I think I give an example with some in this chapter as well. I think there were foreign scholars that got it wrong. 1903 explained that when an African prayer before a statue, which I did, images the sculpture, he also sees Jesus not talking to or worshiping the statue or image in question, but the divinity, the supernatural being, symbolically representing by the statues. And when a lot of these foreigners, a lot of these anthropologists, a lot of these missionaries, a lot of these investigators that went in and seen these things, and they began to write about some of the things that they saw, they got it wrong. They got it wrong. And now, you know what I'm saying, they are worshiping these certain things. So, you know, this term of idolatry will come up. They are, you know, worshiping false gods. This
is funny. Animism, you know, you were talking about animism earlier. That's in Edward Tyler's book. That's where the idea developed from. 1871, Edward Tyler, in his book. The name of the book is Primitive Culture. That's the name of the book. So right off the bat, if you know, the sneak dissing is real. Let me just put that out there. The sneak dissing in African traditions is real. Like, if you think they labeled something without a bit of a diss in regards to our spiritual traditions, think something else, because it's always something when you get to the root that's a bit of a diss. You know, so right off the bat, we're primitive, we're backwards, you know, whatever. That is one of the biggest problems with animism. And like you said, other traditions do it and they are not labeled animus. But if you're looking for spiritual non-bias, you will not find it when you talk about Abrahamic views of African spiritual traditions. You're not going to find a non-biased view. That's just not what's going to happen. Now, if you look at idolatry, idolatry is defined of the worship of idols. Pretty simple, right? What is an idol, you might ask? It's an image or representation of God used as an object of worship. Don't Christians, by that definition, have idols?
Of course, yes.
Don't Muslims have idols?
That's what I be saying.
That means Jewish people got idols. That means a bunch of people got idols, right? The problem is the problem is not in the worship, as I say it. The problem is who and what you are worshiping. That is always the problem. It's not ours, so it's trash. That is the mindset.
Right.
No, not that. You can't worship that. That's not what we do. So it's idolatry. You know, that's basically what it comes down to every single time. When African people have their own image, their own worship, their own culture, it's a problem, because at this time where these words are created and socialized, the power is not with the people that are being talked about. Therefore, you know, it's all about power. It's all about the subjugation and the marginalization of African traditions. Therefore, they will interject their social attitudes into these definitions, to the point of we carry them forward and we don't even know, you know, what we're saying or the origin of what we're saying. So that's why your book is important, to bring those forward. because a lot of people perpetuate racist attitudes with no intent of doing so, but they do.
Mm-hmm. Yep, still using this same verbiage that they've been doing since time immemorial, man. I don't understand where a lot of these terms and these phrases are actually coming from, man, and actually what they mean. But let me go
And I
on.
just wanted to say for the record, Kofi's a 32nd degree. I'm a 33rd degree. I'm 1 degree above Kofi. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, you it's all good. It's been I could have been did it a couple of times, man. I could have did it twice. I never did. Every time I got ready to do it, I don't know, man. I changed my mind or the drive. When they have those things, it's never in your town. You got to drive. It's all I know here. It's way out somewhere. You either gonna drive hours and hours at a time, or you gonna take a plane. At that time, I wasn't flying. I was scared to fly, and at that time, I didn't like to travel by myself.
Fly, Kofi? What year, man?
One of the years was the last one was 2000 and might have been 2013. No, that was the last one. No. The first time was 2006 because we were doing them every couple of years. I became 6, 7, 8. No, it was 2010 was the first one, and 2015 was the second time. I think we do them every 4 years, every 5 years.
Is this true, Kofi?
Yeah, I wasn't flying, brother.
You scared of heights?
No, I'm flying now. I'm flying everywhere, brother. I'm flying everywhere. My wife broke me about 2 years ago. My first time on a flight was to Miami. We went to Miami. That was the first time I've been on a plane, but I done been on them a couple of times. And the longest flight I done been on, and that was to Hawaii when we went to Hawaii for my birthday and my.
How you supposed to go to Africa?
Oh, I'm good. The Hawaii got it was 10 hours on a plane for Hawaii, so I know it's gonna be longer for Africa. That's gonna kill me.
It's gonna be about 2-3 hours more.
I know it's gonna kill me because I know when we went to Hawaii, man, I wanted to tell what you call the women that be walking back and forth telling you. I about to tell her to give me a parachute, open up the thing, and let me hop out wherever I land at. That's where I'm gonna vacation. At I was ready to get off the plane.
Was it straight or was it?
No, it wasn't straight. We drove from. We flew from Jackson to North Carolina, which was I think it was about a 4-hour flight there, and then we flew from no. I take that back. We flew an hour and a half to Houston, Texas, and from there we flew from Houston, Texas to South Carolina, which was 4 hours, and then from South Carolina we flew there, which was another 4.5, almost 5-hour flight. We was on the plane 5 hours from South Carolina. It was more than 10 hours.
Y'all went from Mississippi to Houston, Texas.
Yep.
To South Carolina.
Yep. And
it's
then
going the wrong direction.
I'm telling you, that's where we went. And then when we came back, we went from Hawaii to California to the LAX airport, and from the LAX airport to Atlanta, Georgia airport, and then from the Atlanta, Georgia airport to Jackson.
Hey man, no more Spirit tickets, all right?
There wasn't no Spirit tickets, man.
Stop.
There was no Spirit tickets.
Frontier Airlines, Spirit. Y'all flew somebody.
It was American Airlines and then Delta, because I think what happened was when we got some kind of way the plane the tickets when we got to somewhere, when we got to might have been LA, we sat in LA damn near 9-10 hours because our plane was delayed for weeks.
Texas, South Carolina,
man, I'll tell you,
Atlanta.
Yep.
The vacation inside of the vacation.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you. But somebody told me we wouldn't have took those many stops if we would have just drove to New Orleans and got on from New Orleans. But I didn't feel like driving an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
He was on Soul Plane. That's what he was on. Kevin Hart was your pilot.
Nah, man, nah. But I don't even know where we was, man. Oh shoot, hold on, let me see. I don't know. I blew it up because somebody couldn't see
You
it,
were talking
man.
about idolatry.
Oh, idolatry. Yeah, let me go back. Man. Now that I look at it, man, you about right. Ben, it was a vacation within a vacation. God dang it. We was everywhere, brother. We was everywhere.
In the airport. Trying to
We
find
was-
some food.
We was everywhere, man. But also know that idolatry is a worship of creation instead of creator. And the creation worship is made by the people or the creation. This is where the foreign scholars get it wrong. Explained by when Africans prayers before the statue, image, or sculpture, he or she is not talking or worshiping the statue or image in question, but the divinity, symbolically representing the statue. This cooperation with the views of Awola, hold on, let me see if I can get this right. Awolalu.
Yeah, that's it, Kofi.
All right. I told you I'm going to be practicing. That the statue or emblem of worship by African people is not the means and an end in itself. It is only a means and an end. If an example, a piece of wood representing Obatala, a Yoruba deity, is eaten by termites, the worshiper of Obatala will not feel that their god has been destroyed by the termites because the piece of wood is only a symbol, serving as a visible or concrete embodiment of which it symbolizes. The idols seen in the religions are a symbol that represents the deity in absolute meaningless apart from the spiritual connotation. For example, if a statue or a sculpture represents Iyamai, the Ashanti deity, is destroyed possibly by a natural disaster, the worshiper of Antora will not feel that their goddess has been destroyed because the piece of the statue is only a symbol serving as a visible embodiment of what is symbolized. Symbolically representing is not peculiar African traditional religion / Kimoyo, but to other religions such as Christianity, Buddhism, Shintoism, and so why idolatry only attributes to the religion of African people. It will grossly unfair, misleading, and racial to describe religion as idolatry. At the same time, the image of Mary and Jesus in the Catholic Church have not turned Christianity into idolism religions. Polytheism in Western Africa, says Parada, man believes in great pantheons of gods, which are diverse as the gods of Greeks, of the Hindus. Many of these gods are the expressions of forces of natures, which means fear and try. Proponents, these gods generally have their own temples and priests, and their worships cannot justly be called animistic. The polytheistic sense they worship is varieties of gods.
Hey, Kofi,
Mm-hmm.
I want to make a point for your last chapter when you were talking about the pieces of wood and the various things that are representations of deities in African traditions.
All right.
These symbols, they're made in a certain type of way. Anyone can't just carve the statue or make the emblem. That is a part of the training that priests go to make these items. So these items are things you have to be trained to be able to make. Because when we incite or invoke a deity into these items through different chants or what have you, it is these items that allow the deity to be present.
Right.
So they're treated as like conduits or anchors, that they come to these symbols in which we have produced. and that is left out of a lot of conversations. So the verbiage is correct. If the symbol or the conduit or the anchor is destroyed, we're not going to be thinking that the deity is destroyed. We would just have to make another anchor. That
a Batala is dead. That Batala is
man, that tornado tore up my whole house. Batala and all my shrines died. We would just have to create another pot with the symbols, with Obatala elephant.
Yeah.
Have to just obtain that and the other things that go into his pot, reconsecrate that item in the manner in which we were trained, and then back to business. So that's a portion that I feel is left out, but your verbiage is on point. We don't worship the actual objects, and things of that nature. It's that they are symbols as well as anchors to this world that we use to call a deity or an ancestor or things of that nature forth.
Right. Yep. I said, man, what is so heartbreaking to me is that we, the African American who are descendants of Africa, use these same derogatory terms. A lot of people that's in the chat probably, have used these terms in the past or possibly still using these terms. I have heard quite a few of those derogatory terms personally in my life. I guarantee it won't be the last because I am from the Bible Belt. So anything outside Christianity theology is demonized. Most of our brothers and sisters do not know our ancestors got introduced to the faith of Christianity via trade, invasion, slavery, and missionary work. A lot of brothers and sisters who argue that Christianity has always been in Africa, which is false. Now let's look at some of those entry points of Christianity with King Azina in the East Africa and Queen, which would probably Alfonso, Queen Azinga, in Central Africa. The adaptation of Christianity, which Nzinga is nothing but a title, Christianity in Ethiopia dates to the 4th century reign of the Ascom Empire Nzinga. Ascom geographical location in the northern, and I'm not going to even go through and read this. I kind of go through the whole purpose of was to break down with the last part of it. It's just going and talking about my brothers who are Christians, my brothers, who are Christians, and I'm basically speaking to the people that I'm constantly introduced to because I am from the Bible Belt. I reside in Mississippi. I was born and raised in a small town called Brookhaven, Mississippi. Left for a while, but I'm back in Brookhaven, Mississippi. But I never really just moved outside of Mississippi. There've been a lot of places, but always lived somewhere in Mississippi my whole life. So Mississippi is the Bible Belt. And hold on, man. Unc told me 6:30, man. Hold on. So in this, at the end, I just spoke about, people saying that Christianity always been in Africa. So I kind of break down, some stuff dealing with Christianity and how it actually penetrated certain areas and kind of talk about it a little bit here. But when you go back in one of the chapters in the book, I talk about let me see if I can find the chapter because I talk about the kings. The kings are being, any ruler, king is also a priest. He is what you would consider a high priest. So majority of the time when a king is converted to converted to any other religion, majority of the time you see that everybody else falls suit in line because the king is what we would say what some would say a religious leader or a high priest, and so forth. So a lot of times when you see the converting, however it may go, whether it was influenced, like you look at certain places, some of it was it was forced on people. Some of it was, they was tricked into. Some of them it was, you do this for me, we do that for you. When we talk about trade, some of it was through examples of taxes and starving. There's just so many different examples I can give on why people converted to certain things. But I talk about it in Sacred Move. I don't know which one it is. Might be in Supreme Deities and Lesser Deities. I might have talked about the king. Actually, every king would be considered a high priest. I think I talk about it in that chapter, man. But and that's in chapter 4. So I'm not gonna read, but I wanted to but the whole chapter was to kind of break down why we at where we at. So I kind of mentioned the early, not even, I said the 50s, but we can go back to even the 30s, 1930s and on up, when no one was recognized and everybody was talking bad about Africa, and people who have never been to Africa, these European journalists, investigators and et cetera, was writing all these negative things about it. So I wanted to kind of open the chapter up with where a lot of the negative writing was coming from, and why these people were speaking about Africa and people in Africa and their culture and customs in this sense, and have never even been there. And even when the missionaries started to go and other investigators and other people started to go in, they was confused, didn't understand certain things, didn't really get a grasp on some of the translations that they had, the confusion, the misconceptions about the people that they was encountering in, because they didn't understand it, and just the arrogance that they had, and then how a lot of these terms came into existence, and how we today are still using some of these terms that wasn't put together by ourselves, but put together by Europeans, to describe us in a negative way or in a negative connotation. And we're still doing it. Even the people that don't understand African traditions, they still superimpose these same prejudice ideals on the concepts, and don't have a clue about it. They're just making their own opinion, or making their own assumptions without studying it, man. But let me stop sharing real quick. I should have blown this up earlier, man, but somebody should have said something earlier. They said it was kind of small, man. I could see it, but can't nobody else see it. But yeah, man, I'm not gonna go through the rest of the chapter, man. But and it wasn't but a couple of more pages, man. If y'all interested in it and you got the book, man, and you ain't read it, go check the book out, man. Like I said, I got some good reviews, man, from it. I got quite a few people who actually read the book from front to back, and who actually gave me some great reviews for the book. I put the book out, if they got anything to critique, I got something wrong, I was willing, to go through the scrutiny. I put something out to be critiqued. And for the most part, I have got great reviews from most of the people to read. And I finally got to read it. I don't know if it was Ben or if it was Shawn or whoever it was, but is he says a good piece of work, man. He kind of glad he picked the book up and read the book. But if you want the book, go to Same Tree Different Branch Publishing to get the book. And I'm telling you, if you don't understand what African, I'm using the word, which I don't like to use, the word African traditional religion. We trying to push in y'all psyches the word Kimoyo. If you don't know what Kimoyo is, or why we trying to replace it with it, read the book. The first chapter, I talk about what Kimoyo is. I talk about the concerns of African spirituality, where African spirituality comes from, where African traditional religion comes from. I think that's in the first chapter, So, and then for different elements, the different elements that make up, ATRs, if you want to call it, like I'm saying, I don't, peace, Ogun Bala. I don't like to use the word African traditional religion, but I phrased it in my book a couple of times, but and I discussed why I don't use the word African traditional religion again, was created by a white European missionary in the 1950s who was fighting back against Western society and Western institutions. So he created a term for African culture at that particular time because it was looked upon by Western society as demon. It was demonized. It was paganism. It was idolatry. You was a pagan. You was a heathen, and etc. So he fought back. And with the likes of John Mbiti and Professor Oduduwa. John Mbiti is from Kenya. John Oduduwa is from Nigeria. They both were Christians, but they also studied within their own traditions, and they understood that Western society got a lot of things wrong, and a lot of those derogatory terms and stuff on how they was trying to explain it. They went out on their mission to correct those things. So they popularized the term for this white missionary European. I talk about the guy, the white European. I give his name, Kofi Piesie. If you want to go look him up, he's a white European missionary from London. If I'm correct, I think he's from London. A missionary who went into different places, went into West Africa, he went into East Africa. Doing what missionaries do. But he also seen things, he understood things, and he tried to fight on behalf of African culture and create a term, and then try to get Africa to recognize it as a religion. You know what I'm saying? Because if you read some of the stuff that I was talking about, they said we was incapable of knowing what a God was. We was incapable of knowing different concepts or anything. We was just too primitive. So we don't have agency over the word African traditional religion. It was not created by us, but it was popularized by East African, and it was popularized by a West African. And Oduwa went to the same university in Nigeria as Godfrey Parada. Godfrey Parada ended up teaching at a university in Nigeria early I think it was in the 1950s, might have been 1955. And as he was coming out, Oduwa was ushered in at that particular time, who got introduced to the word. And then by them, John Mbiti and Oduwa pushing this phrase and popularizing this phrase, it was able to get into Western institutions. So now when you go and take an Africana studies, you will start to see this term African traditional religion, ATRs sprung up everywhere. I don't have a problem with nobody using it. I'm just saying we have no agency over that word, African traditional religion. Kimoyo is something that actually describes us to a T, not animism. So, but I talk about that as well in the book, give you other different elements of what Kimoyo or what African traditional is, because a lot of people don't know all the elements that's included in there. So I talk about chapter 1. I talk about and matter of fact, in the introduction, what's the name does a pretty good job. Okunfu Nu Apim, which is a member of the Mossi warrior clan. My brother, he wrote the introduction in there. But chapter 1, talk about Kimoyo. Chapter 2, African, the place of humanity, and Kimoyo. So I talk about Kimoyo, how some of these ideals actually took place, what happened to transpire some of these ideals, natural and supernatural ideals. So I talk about evolution and how through evolution over time and being in a particular geographical location, which I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about all these things. I'm going to do a different part. We did chapter 10 first, and we're going to rewind and go back. Oral traditions. So I talk about oral traditions in here as well. I talk about oral traditions because a lot of people have don't understand oral traditions. And I understand and that's the thing, that people speak on stuff and they not studied in it. And I understand if I wasn't studied in it, I probably would No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't because I know better. I don't speak about stuff that I don't know about. So some conversations that I have, I just stay back and even if I do know about it, a lot of times I don't have time for the back and forth. So I just sit back and I watch. If the conversation brung to me, I talk about it. The conversation going on right now, it's brung to me, but it's conversations that we having, you know what I'm saying, over the phone and et cetera. But I just sit back. I sit back and watch, but oral tradition. But most people believe that oral tradition is just a form of a mouth to ear. Oral tradition have a methodology. And once I understand that when I'm speaking, or if I'm speaking something to Ben and I'm speaking it from mouth to ear, and he's speaking to someone from mouth to ear, and that person speaking, sometimes what was the original thing that was spoken from mouth to ear to the original person, by the time it get to 10, I understand people say that. And then when they say that, I understand that they don't understand what oral tradition is when it comes to African tradition, because they have a methodology, and that is not exactly what they do in order for them to remember what goes on when we talking about oral tradition. And I also in that chapter highlight, and we're gonna go back and talk about that over the past few weeks. We're gonna deal with these chapters, because without oral tradition, you wouldn't have writing. So a lot of people will shit on oral tradition, but again, without oral tradition, you wouldn't have writing. So I I go in a little bit about that. I go in about the methodology that they use and give examples of what they use. So it's that oral tradition, or what I'm saying, is kept intact. It is different modes that they are using, and it's just not somebody speaking something in somebody's mouth. I mean, somebody speaking something out of their mouth into somebody's ear. It's a methodology that they are actually using. Yeah, I just cursed. I didn't mean to curse. I didn't mean to curse. That's something too. I got to work on hanging around some of these cats, man. Ain't even my wife, man. They cuss like my wife doing better. I can't say she's doing better, but man, you pick up some of these bad things, man, when you hang around some.
What's wrong with cussing?
I be trying not to cuss, man. I be trying my best not to cuss, man. But
I don't just go around cussing, but if I get in a certain usually angry.
Yeah, that's how I got with me. Now I go speaking about certain things and getting the mode, boy, they'll go to flying. Hey,
it's appropriate when it's appropriate.
Yeah. So, and but yeah, oral tradition, supreme deities, lesser deities. I clean up some of the pseudo claims about African deities operating the same function that the Western society deities operate, and that's totally false. So I give examples within there, and I talk about the supreme and the lesser. What is the function of the supreme deity? What is the function of the lesser deities, and so forth, within that book. But I think I deal with the king being the high priest, and etc. Rites of passages. So I deal and break down the rites of passages. The only two that I didn't go further in depth with, but when I put out the expanded version, brother Sars Imhotep and Blak Panther is involved in that project. They wrote some as well. So I'll be putting out an expanded version, and I'm gonna elaborate on the other two rites of passages that I on scarification and tattooing I just touched on briefly. But those other ones, naming rites of passage, the adult rites of passage, the marriage rites of passage, the elder rites of passage, the ancestor ship rites of passage, I kind of go in depth with that.
When is the book coming out?
I'm not saying I'm actually learning from you.
Oh,
so I'm not putting the date out there, but it will. I can't say it will be. It's January. It will be before May. I say that it will be before May. I already done blocked out some time, starting after I come back from Atlanta, which is the 22nd, the 24th. I'm starting back, and I'm gonna finish it. I already started on one chapter. I got to do the edits for Yarns, Sars, and I got to that. Once I get that done, I got a chapter and a half done. I got to finish that chapter. finish that chapter. And once I finish that chapter, I'm gonna go. I got 2 more chapters to do, which ain't gonna be, it shouldn't be that much on me, and I'll be done. So by May, it will be out. I don't know when in May, but it will be out in May. It might be out before then. You know what I'm saying? Once I get in my little thing, I'm in my thing. So we'll see. So be on the lookout for the expanded version. This got 10 chapters. The expanded version will have 14 chapters. But I'll talk a little bit more about scarification, and I'll talk a little bit more about tattooing, because that is another rites of passage. So I'll talk about the significance of scarification, and I'll talk about the significance of tattooing. But yeah, and another one, rituals and sacrifice. So I talk about rituals and sacrifice. I quoted Bujawa in this book. I quoted Brother Ben, aka Blak Panther. I quoted him in the book, and then I gave an examples of what Bujawa said, and I gave an example of what Ben said, just to validate what they were saying. You know what I'm saying? So if people with the quotes that they said, I elaborated a little bit more so people can understand if they didn't understand with the quote. So I try to do my best to give examples of certain things and the groups. I'm not just going to speak and then somebody say, well, what about who did? I can kind of elaborate who did what and why. Music is another element. So I got a whole chapter talking about music, the importance of music. But if you got Kalaw's trip to the motherland, and African education and music and instruments, which is a kid's book, you kind of got a grasp of why music is important and why music is used in African culture everywhere. Man, we can be out in there picking yams. We got them. We jamming. We out there jamming. You know what I'm saying? Our visitor can be coming. We out there. So I give an examples of the things that why we use music, some of the music instruments, which one in particular, the drums, and how the drums, I say, is the first cell phone. You know what I'm saying? That's just me saying that because it was a way of communication as well. You know what I'm saying? Communicate with so many different, on so many different levels. But I ain't gonna, I talk about that in the book. You can read the book or wait till I do a show on it. Mask, I talk about mask, the importance of mask, because they describe in this chapter grotesque and demon like. So a lot of those masks that the European also seen, they thought that they was worshiping the devil and all this other type of craziness and worshiping demons and all this type of stuff. Because when you may see an African ethnic group, they got a damn white man mask on. What I mean by a white man mask, they done carved up a mask and then painted it to it. And then painted up a mask, and it's looking like a white man, but they're mocking the European. They may have certain masks where they had horns on, but I'm not going to give all of it away. Go read the book. Or wait till I do a show. I'm going to do a show on each one of these chapters. So mask, and then the last chapter, why we turned against our ancestors. So I think I read all of them, but man, yeah, that's it, man. I appreciate everybody, man, for tuning in. I'll go in the chat. You got something? I'm gonna look in the chat. I ain't looked in the chat in a minute. See what they talking about in the chat.
Nah, bro, it's a great book. People should read it, buy it. I recommend it to a lot of people that are just coming into wanting to study African spirituality and Kimoyo. Never heard of it. Want to get some information on it. So I, recommend it in that sense. And even if you have been in these traditions for a while, I think it's a good book to learn about other traditions.
Mm-hmm.
The chapter Supreme Deities and Lesser Deities is a great chapter to learn about other traditions. The Sahur, the voodoo, the Odinani with the Alusi, the Wanga, the Mukasa, amongst the Bukanga, It's a lot of information in here, man. So it's definitely worth the purchase. So if you are able, I would definitely recommend this book as well. It's even got a little evolution in this book.
Yep. Yep. Second chapter.
Place of Humanity in Kimoyo, talk about the hominids and so forth. So I think it's a lot of great information in this book. So I'm proud to be a part of the expanded version. And you will learn a lot if you buy and read this book.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. I sure appreciate it, man. But yeah, I'm finna get ready to hop up off here. But yeah, man. Like I said, man, same tree, different brands, publishing, but don't, go get all our other works. Go get Ben's, both of his journals. They available, man. What I would say would hit him first, and if he tell you to go to Amazon, but hit him first, and any other author, man.
I got some copies, so hit me up. I can ship them to you directly.
Right. See, and that's it. We patronize the author. Patronize the author. Stop going to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and Target, and all these other places. If it's available on there, it's cool. It's cool. It's on there, but go through them. Because when you're supporting either way, but you want the author to get as much. Again, I'm gonna keep saying that you want the author to get as much as possible for his intellectual property, because a lot of those other markets is raping us. It's raping us. So who want a 60-40 split, man? 60-40 split? So, 60-40, you know what I'm saying? A 65-35 split. Those things are terrible, y'all. So that's why we ask you to patronize us. That means when you pay us, and even when you go through those other things, we don't get the money right then. You pay, we send, and just listen. You pay for something. You paying for something. We don't get it. Or let's say you sell something. I pay you for something, and you send me what I pay for, but you got your own. I mean, I got mine because I done patronized you. I done got mine, or I went through another outlet. I bought something, and you got something that I created, I produced, and it was housed from somewhere else, and they shipped it off. I don't get it right away. You got your own within a week's time, 3 to 5 business days, or 5 to 7 business days. You got. I'm still over here waiting. It might be a month, might be 2 months. You got your own, but I ain't got mine. And then what I get, it ain't worth nothing. 60-40 split. So now I got to split it. They get 60, I get 40%. And so, please, no matter if it ain't, if it's whoever, patronize the author. If they selling something, hit them up direct. And we got you. And I got over here on my shelf over here, I got, let me see if I can do it real quick. I'm gonna get over here. Let me change this camera. Let me see if it'll let me do it. Let's see. All right. Over here, I got a few other people books on the shelf that I support. And some of these books I got on the shelf, man, they just waiting to be given away to somebody because I got extra copies just waiting to give away. But a lot of the stuff that we got, I got all the way down on this zigzag thing, is the stuff that we got. So we got the stuff in stock. So if you order from us, man, we gonna ship it out. We say on the website is 3 to 5 business days. 3 to 5 business days. But we send the stuff out. Man, you might purchase something today, man. We ship it out tomorrow. We ship it out. We pride ourselves on being faster than some of the other people. So we ship it out, even though it's 3 to 5 days before we got up to shipping it out. But, we try to go and get it out the next day if possible. If we ain't got nothing going on the next day, I try to get on up and boom, take it and ship it on out and get it on out of my hands instead of waiting 3 to 5 days to try to ship it out. Just go ahead and get it out. So patronize the author directly. And again, for those who bought Brother Chavis' book, you know, they bought the pre-orders copies. I already done called. Well, I ain't even finna go through that because everybody I done called, done explain. I done put a thing on Facebook, Instagram, you know, and apologizing and explaining what happened with that. But they will be getting their weeks. It will be delayed a week. Actually, it's delayed 2 weeks now about what happened. We have no control of when the holiday was when we actually purchased the author's copies. But they're coming. They're gonna get them. People understand, and that was the first time that we didn't deliver like we said we was gonna deliver, and that was due through the United Postal Service and UPS at that time. But then once we got them delivered, another issue we ran into. That's why I don't like to do pre-orders unless I got the books in my hand. But we only did pre-orders twice, and that was with Shawn book. We had books already in hand. And we did the volume 1. We already had books in hand. But anyway, man, again, appreciate y'all for tuning in, man, to the show. I mean, I hope y'all learned something, you know, that's what we try to do. We try to share what we know. As I learn, we all learn. So, you know, again, you know, appreciate everybody for tuning in because y'all could have been doing anything else with y'all time, man. So appreciate that. So I want to say, you know, please keep on supporting us, man. We greatly appreciate y'all. Again, appreciate those who God damn, I gotta get off here, man. I gotta go, man. I gotta take this phone call, man. But peace and Black African power, man. I will leave y'all with some music, but I gotta take this damn phone call. I mean, there I go. I gotta take this phone call, man. Peace and Black African power, man. And I'll see y'all, man, next week. We out. Peace, y'all.